she kisses him, he remembers. It's as if his past lives come flooding back to him, much like when we remember who we are by knowing all is love. Hi everyone, this is a new series of videos I'm making in the spirit of Vlogmas. Vlogmas is a YouTube event in which people like me who make videos participate, making a video a day that's supposed to be Christmas themed, but considering everything here is about Christmas, which is the celebration of your awakening, everything's fair game. So if you have a subject you'd like me to discuss, please leave it in the comments. Just keep in mind that these are going to be fairly simple, mostly audio, very little video. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about some of the things I've been going through. So the last several months, I guess, maybe longer, there's been this sort of life review that's been going on with all the talk of narcissists and relationships and this therapy, psychology. All of this has suddenly been coming up out of the woodwork from the internet due to the content that's been released on Netflix, and mainstream media is revealing the toxicity within the relationship dynamic, within the human interaction, within love relationships, people's mental illnesses and whatnot. So that's kind of been prevalent the last little while. Most people can't observe this sort of thing without some self-reflection and questioning your own behavior and realizing, oh shit, what an idiot I was to have behaved such a way, and wanting to potentially go back and apologize to certain people that you've wronged, or sort of feeling like you've embarrassed yourself, or that you wish you could take back things you did and some of the things you said. And then when you do that, you start to position yourself as living in that moment again, like you're there now. So for me personally, I look at my past, and there's a lot of things that I did in my youth that I regret, that I feel, and I never used to regret it. I never used to regret the choices that I made, because I made those choices with the best knowledge I had at the time. I made those choices that made me who I am. I made those choices that allowed me to expand and get to know myself better, get to know other people better, experiment with certain theories or hypotheses about life and about people and about myself. So sort of testing the boundaries, I guess, in self-discovery. And a lot of the things that I did in my youth, I don't do anymore. Stupid things that you do as a teenager or 20-something, and there's a lot of ignorance or naivete that led to stupid behavior because I didn't have any guidelines, I didn't have any rule book, I didn't have any guidance from anybody saying, this is how you navigate this situation. I think my parents generally came from the don't talk about it era, and if anything, they kind of got scared about certain things and made assumptions, and instead of addressing it, they just sort of buried their head in the sand, which didn't help me, didn't help my sister. So there's a lot of things that I realized that could have been avoided had they been addressed when I was younger, but I didn't have that dynamic, so I can't go back and change it. And there's a reason why I had that dynamic, because I had to learn certain things on my own. So lately I've been going through this process of recognizing all these horribly embarrassing, toxic, painful, regrettable actions on my part, and thinking, oh my gosh, what an idiot. Why did I do that? I wish I didn't do that. And, kind of focusing on the negative a little too much because of what's going on in the media right now. So in my meditation sessions, I guess I will refer to them that way, I have reflected on this and come to the conclusion that these experiences were necessary, but also they were scripted. So a lot of the things that I went through, that I experienced, had to happen because they were scripted for me. There's no going around it. And that's really been a hard pill to swallow the last little while, because you think that you're going through life of your own agency, your own free will, making choices, but really the choices are an illusion. they're presented to you based on who you are, and you have an option, much like the choose your own adventure stories. You have a choice of this path or this path, and both paths lead to the same destination. So it really doesn't matter which one you choose. They're still scripted for you. It just gives you the illusion of choice and free will, and who you are is going to dictate what you choose anyway. Who you are is going to dictate what you say, because all of those things are programmed into your character here. So in a way, yes, you have to take responsibility for the things that you said and you did, but at the same time, it's not your fault because it's scripted for you. You're not really in control anyway. How do you reconcile something like that? How do you reconcile this idea that everything is scripted and yet I still have to take accountability and still have to take responsibility for the things that I've done in my life? It is a bit of a conundrum. It's a bit of a mind fuck. I don't really know how to reconcile the two just yet. Because if you think about everything being scripted, you kind of feel like, oh, whew, I'm off the hook. And yet I still did those things and I still said those things. But it's like, okay, but I am not this character. This character is the one experiencing this movie we're in, this tarot play. So it's kind of like you are an actor and you agree to be in a play and you play a certain character, and yes, when you're in the play you are making certain choices and decisions as to how you choose to play that character and how you relate to the other characters in the play, but everything is scripted. The things that you do within that story are written for you. You don't actually have a choice in what you do. You only have a choice in how you do it. So you are not the character though. But when you are in the play, it certainly feels like you're the character. As an actor, part of the magic of, what people call the acting bug, part of the magic of that is this feeling that you get. It's like a rush that you get from sort of disappearing into this character that you are not. And you get to experience life as somebody else for a 2-hour period or an hour period or however long you are playing this character. There's a rush that comes with that. There's a rush that comes from it because it's real to you. And you just wonder, how can it be so real to me when I know that it's fiction? So one of the movies that I've been examining in the course of my research has been First Daughter. So First Daughter is a movie with Katie Holmes, who plays the daughter of the President of the United States. So she lives in the White House and she's hyper protected by her father because she is the daughter of the president. But it's kind of like a Roman holiday story where she leaves the compound of the White House to go to college, and she wants just like a normal experience. She wants to know what it's like to be a regular student. But she's being followed by these bodyguards everywhere. And she's frustrated because she's like, I can't have a normal student experience if people are aware that I'm being followed by these bodyguards. So she ditches the bodyguards, but her father has planted a covert bodyguard who she falls in love with because she thinks he likes her for her. And he ends up being bodyguard, and when she finds out, she's upset. So anyway, they run off together to have a day outside of being the president's daughter. Now, there's a scene in the movie, I don't know where in the movie it was because this clip was taken out of context, but he says to her, "It's as if you're experiencing life for the first time." And she says, "I am." And when I saw that, it really hit home. It felt like they were talking about me. I mean, if you understand from the material I've been putting out, how I listen to the television and how it communicates sort of thing, then you will understand that this sort of thing happens. So it touched something within me because I realized that it is talking about the living beings. It is talking about the people who are the gods. She is the first daughter, which is Venus, and she is released into the real world as a human. She wants to have a human experience, but she's being followed around and protected, and so she doesn't want that protection. She wants to have a real human experience. She wants to forget who she really is. So that's what's going on here. You know, there's these moments where I'm watching movies like this, and those sorts of moments poke through, and I mean, it's like you talking to you. It's like that interstellar moment where the father is talking to his daughter through the field. That's what this is. Those sorts of moments are very illuminating, earth-shattering. They just strike to the core. So I don't know if you've had these kinds of moments. I would imagine that if you are at the stage where you're watching my content, I would imagine that you've had these types of moments where some truth like hits the core of you, and it's just like, oh my goodness, I remember, I know this is true because I feel it. Even if you can't articulate it, even if you can't express it or understand it or put it into words, it's a visceral feeling that you get. It's like I've said with the tarot play, the Pharaoh Tarot, the fairy tale video I did, where that movie, I mean, it comes across as some fluff entertainment that, you know, kind of sloppily, poorly written in some regards to some people. But if you are aware of the truth, some of these apparently sloppily put together things, I mean, I thought it was a really good movie, but some people didn't get it. And they don't get it because they don't see the esoteric meaning in it. And a lot of these sort of odd films or seemingly poor quality films do have a lot of truth in them. And there's a few of these films that I've come across that are so loaded with truth. And yet on the surface, as a piece of entertainment, it's like, why would I watch this? This is terrible. So, I mean, even First Daughter, you know, it's a typical type of Disney movie, but it's loaded with truth. Cinderella, loaded with truth. You know, all these little fairy tales loaded with truth. Yet on the surface of things, you kind of look at it like, well, why is that? It's a very weird kind of story. So anyway, in the beginning, I started this recording talking about how there's a lot of things in my life that I regret. And I'm still processing this, I guess, cognitive dissonance of, okay, I made those choices, but it wasn't really me. I'm playing a character, and this character has to go through these experiences. So what is me? And the other day, I was watching this video that was talking about borderline personality disorder, and I was like, okay, this is dangerous information because of the way it's being positioned. This therapist was saying that borderline personality disordered people don't know who they are. And so they constantly change their appearance, they constantly change their name, they change their looks, they change their lifestyle and what they're interested in. And the way she was describing it was kind of dangerous because, yes, these people are lost and don't know who they are, but you should be questioning who you are. You should be trying on different things. You should be experimenting in life. You should be exploring your boundaries and figuring out who you really are. I mean, that's the whole reason why we're here, is to explore who we are, to figure out what we like, what we don't like, to figure out what we want to do in life and where our interests lie. And for the most part, most people don't know. But that doesn't mean they're borderline personality disordered. The people who are borderline personality disordered will never know who they are because they're not looking at themselves. They're looking at other people and trying to take their traits and hide in them because they have no identity. It's a completely different way of looking at it. It's a very damaging presentation to say that people who don't know who they are borderline. That's wrong. We need to explore. We need to experiment. We need to test our boundaries. We need to push the limits. And I find that the people who don't do that are not introspective. They don't look at themselves. They don't ask questions about who am I? What do I like? What do I want in the world? What kind of relationship do I want? And a lot of people just fall into things. There are people who never leave the small town they grew up in. They've never even been to neighboring communities. And I find that shocking. How can you know anything about yourself and about the world if you've never been outside of your own community? If you have such a small life, where there's nothing wrong with having a small life, but if you've never pushed your boundaries, you've never challenged yourself, say you went to school and you weren't that great, so then you got like a regular Joe job and you just stayed with it all your life, you never challenged yourself with trying new things, You just stuck with a job because it's all you knew. You didn't even bother to think about what you really wanted to do. You just did it because your father worked there, or your cousin worked there, or your friend worked there and got you the job, paid all right. And then you just plod along in your existence, living day to day, hand to mouth, never save up for anything, never improve your life, never go anywhere, never travel. You never upgrade your life. You think people owe you something. You don't read anything. You don't study anything. You don't learn anything. You don't have any hobbies. Like, completely devoid of anything outside of get up, go to work, come home, watch TV, go to the pub, drink, smoke, eat. That's it. Maybe watch a hockey game, maybe go and play poker at the friend's house or something, but that's it. Like, this is your entire existence. I find it so hard to wrap my head around living that way, because I live completely the opposite way. I mean, there are plenty of people who live like that. Not to offend anybody who lives like that, but I would imagine potentially those people are just NPCs who are here to populate the world and fill in the background, because they have absolutely no introspection. Looking back on my life and feeling regret on certain things, I've had to find the good in it so that I can accept why it was necessary for those things to happen. There's still that feeling that I should have known better, but if I had known better, I would have done better. And there's this feeling of, like, almost as if that was a different person to who I am now. And I didn't dislike that person when I was living that way, and yet now I look back on that life and now I have dislike, which is a strange feeling for me to think that, like, casting judgment on myself from this perspective, when I was living that life I didn't cast judgment on myself, which is weird. And trying to find forgiveness, trying to find compassion and forgiveness for myself, for the choices that I made and the things that I said and the things that I did. And also finding balance and looking at the positive things and saying, look, you're focusing on the negative, that you're not doing these things anymore. So you did learn from that. But there are a lot of things that you did that were circumstantial, a lot of things that you did that were provoked, that were a reaction to what other people said or did, and you were trying to do your best based on what you knew. There were a lot of things that you did just trying to sort your way through life in a trauma center. So trying to find compassion and forgiveness, empathy and understanding for myself as my past self, knowing that I don't do those things anymore, is a very strange feeling. And the bigger issue of trying to reconcile the cognitive dissonance of having made these choices and not operating under free will, so they aren't really my choices anyway, and that this life is really like being an actor in a movie. So if you're an actor in a movie, all the lines and everything and scenarios are scripted for you, so you don't really have any responsibility for those things anyhow. So what are you actually responsible for? Thanks for listening. Tune in tomorrow for another video. Hope you're having a great day. Talk to you later. Bye for now.